All right, howdy everyone, what's going on? We got Zach here after a little bit of a delay, and today I'm bringing you something a little bit different. So this is going to be a post commentary for my playoffs run in NDA. I did a playoffs video for TPA a little bit ago, my own league, which consisted of all 3 games that I played all at once. I'm gonna break these down one by one just to have a little bit of a more consistent video length among these videos, but I really want to put these out. I think these were really good games that I played, and I think they exemplified a lot of the good relationship between how I prep and how I execute a battle plan, and it was a really good playoff run, so I want to show that off as well. And if you like anything that you're seeing, again, I'm on Metafy. I am in grad school right now, so I am spending 10 plus hours a day studying, but I'm finding time when I can to still play Mon, still coach people. I have a couple clients right now that I'm working with to great success, so if that's something you're interested in, as always, links will be down below. So in this first round of the playoffs, we're playing Sammy, he came in as a replacement coach. I think he picked up a team that was 0-2 or 0-3, and he ended 7-3. So he had an absolutely incredible season picking up a team. I have a very large envy for his ability to turn a season around picking up a team, because I did the same thing in this league, and it didn't go as well. Still went well. We made playoffs, but he absolutely killed it. So a very scary team. The Dragapult, Mandibuzz, make a Gardevoir core that I feel like is very, very common, really good core. He's also got Rotom Heat, he's got Inteleon, Roserade for special wall breakers, Mamoswine and Mienshao on the physical side, and then Bronzong as a really solid glue piece, Kamala as well. But a very scary team, and looking at my team, I don't have my team up, but my Ghost Resists are pretty shaky. I have a Alolan Persian and I have Exploud as my 2 Mons that are ghost answers. I had Exploud on here for a little bit, didn't really work out. He has a Bronzong, he has Gardevoir, which is very specially bulky, Mandibuzz can be as well, and everything outspeeds it. He has Mienshao, Mamos, it didn't work out. So pretty much my goal here is I have a lot of really good offensive pieces and some really good pivoting as well, but I can't let Dragapult set up. Same with Gardevoir. I can't let Gardevoir, because Gardevoir is a very good matchup on everything on my team bar Registeel. It can hit pretty much everything really hard with stab, and it has a really good speed tier as well. So, and then stuff like Mienshao, Mamoswine, and Inteleon, all these just fast wall breakers. I just need to play very well around them and get my Pokemon in that do well before he has a chance to do his, and keep momentum that way. And speaking of Pokemon that do really well, we are bringing Specs Offensive Zapdos. I think this is one of a couple times that I brought Offensive Zapdos this season, but looking at his team, aside from Mamoswine, Electric really does well. And Roserade's not an Electric resist because I have Hurricane. And we get Heat Wave as really solid coverage for Bronzong, and for Rotom we have Ancient Power, which isn't, great, but it still does a lot of damage. And flying against his team is just, as a whole, really good. It's Rotom and Bronzong that resist. We have coverage for that. So Zapdos is going to be a very strong offensive piece, a lot of his slower stuff. And if I can get predictions right, if I can get a read on him early, Zapdos is going to be absolutely incredible. If not, it could become a liability, but we'll see how that goes. Then we have Scarf Buzzwole, which is able, with almost max speed, is able to outspeed Dragapult, which is absolutely huge. So we have, despite not having super fast ball gun, we have a Mon that can revenge it. And Buzzwole as a whole has very solid coverage, and especially with Beast Boost, a sweep can spiral late game for Sammy. Just looking at his fighting resist, it's Roserade, which is really frail on the physical side, Gardevoir, which doesn't necessarily want to switch into Buzzwole, and then Dragapult being an immunity. Darkest Lariat is also really good, just being Mandibuzz and Mienshao. Stone Edge, his Rock Answer is Bronzong and Mienshao, so again, only 2. And then Poison Jab being able to hit the Gardevoir. But again, if I can catch him off guard with Scarf, that'd be absolutely huge if I could claim a kill that way. But a win con is definitely just narrowing things down to put them in range of Buzzwole. We also have Gengar, which is a bit more of a setup sweeper than a Revenger, which if I'm able to get this, so for this, Gengar is pretty much, if Dragapult is dead, and I know Mienshao isn't Scarfed or Mamoswine isn't Scarfed or stuff like that, Gengar can win the game. Inteleon as well, sorry. Inteleon does outspeed us. But if we're able to get rid of Pult, Gengar becomes immensely hard for him to deal with, because after a Nasty Plot, we OHKO Mandibuzz with Thunderbolt, with the Life Orb. So his Gengar quote-unquote answer does not answer. And Focus Blast kills Kamala. Shadow Ball absolutely obliterates everything else on his team. So that is another win con that we're playing for. If we're able to get Dragapult down early, if he tries to set up to break through, you know, Registeel or something like that, then Gengar becomes very threatening. Now, on the bottom half, we have Mega Blastoise, which is a very good utility piece. Just max HP, max special attack, super simplistic spread with Water Pulse, Dark Pulse, Rapid Spin, Flip Turn. Water and Dark. Well, Water as a whole is really good versus team. It's just Dragapult, Inteleon, and Roserade that resist. And I don't really need to run coverage for Roserade or Inteleon. Inteleon we kind of wall naturally, and Roserade we're pretty much switching out of. And then we have Dark Pulse for Pult. It hits Bronzong as well. And it's just kind of meant to sit there. It's meant to keep hazards off the field, especially if he ends up being, you know, T-Spikes or Spikes Roserade. T-Spikes will be really nice because we have Gengar, but if he's a Spikes Roserade, that's why we have Rapid Spin on that, as well as, you know, Rocks from Bronzong and Mamoswine, which I think are his only 2 rockers. And then we have Flip Turn because momentum, again, like I said, is absolutely huge. If we need to sacrifice health on Blastoise for momentum, 9 times out of 10, I'm taking that because I would rather... Like, Blastoise isn't doing a ton of like it is doing a lot of damage. It hits Mamoswine hard. It's able to take a hit from Rotom and kill it. Probably takes a hit from Roserade, does a lot in return. Water Pulse will do a lot to Mienshao, to Mandibuzz, but Blastoise's main job is to keep hazards off and then to get other things in, and pretty much just, you know, sacrifice its health throughout the course of the game to do so. And then we have Registeel, which I know those EVs, I had 8 EVs on there somewhere. I'm pretty sure they were in defense. I don't know where they went. But we have an Iron Defense, or not Iron Defense, sorry, just a regular Rest Sleep Talk set. This is very post-com. These games were played a little while ago, so I'm trying to refresh my memory as well. But this is kind of meant to be an anti-Pult set. So we match up pretty well versus Flamethrower, aside from Specs. So if he's just like, you know, Expert Belt, even Life Orb, I'm pretty sure we win 1v1. Rest is there to avoid any kind of Will-O-Wisp shenanigans, because if he's like a sub-Wisp set, that could be potentially problematic. Sub-Disable is also really nice, so then, you know, if he disables Rest or something like that, we have Iron Head, we can Salsify with Rest, and no Pult will be running Flamethrower, Wisp, Sub, Disable, so we pretty much we are able to beat almost every Pult set as long as he's not like Specs Flamethrower locked into. This is also really good just for naturally walling Gardevoir. He does have Focus Blast, and I think it gets Mystical Fire. Yeah, it does get Mystical Fire. But just having the Stab Iron Head on that side is going to be really good for Gardevoir. Can take a hit from Mamoswine, Rotom. It pretty much takes 1 hit from anything, which can be really good if I just need to get a hit off on something, get Chip to get something else in. Really good for walling Inteleon as well, just because of the Spadef. But again, Registeel and Blastoise fulfilling similar roles. And then lastly, we have Persian, which is pretty much just meant to be annoying, and my first sack to Dragapult. This is kind of the anti-physical set. If he's DD, this is the set, this is my immediate switch in, probably my immediate switch in anyway, but with the Rocky Helmet Fur Coat, this is also meant to punish potential U-turn, even though we'll be hitting us super effectively. Any chip is good chip on that. And then Taunt Toxic, this is also meant to wall Bronzong and Mandibuzz and kind of cripple them, Toxic them, prevent Rocks, prevent Defog, prevent Roost on Mandibuzz. And then Foul Play does the most damage stuff like Mamoswine and Pult. So that's kind of the game plan. I'm going to switch over to the game. So right off the bat, there's no Mega Gardevoir, which is absolutely huge. So we don't have to worry about, you know, switching to Specs, Hyper Voice, and stuff like that, which means Registeel can become a lot more tailored to stuff like Inteleon and Pult. There's no Mamoswine, so Blastoise can become a lot more tailored to stuff like Inteleon and Bronzong and Pult. And there's no... What was the other mon? Mienshao. There's no Mienshao. So I don't have to worry about that thing outspeeding Zapdos, which is super nice. So Zapdos becomes a lot better. I don't have to worry about that as a potential Scarf Revenger, which is super nice. So I'm going to set this on slow, and we're just going to get right into it. So I decided to lead Zapdos because I don't see Mamoswine. There is no ground type. Volt switching is absolutely free. He has 2 resist. It is what it is. We outspeed both of them unless they're Scarf, which is super nice. Zapdos has a very good speed tier because it outspeeds all of the bulky stuff, and this stuff really doesn't want to switch in. So I decided to lead Zapdos, and he decides to lead Rotom, and I'm like, great, Rotom doesn't have the best recovery. It's Pain Split. I'm just going to fire off an Ancient Power, see what happens. Maybe I get a boost, maybe I don't. It does 62, and he goes for Toxic and ends up missing. Oh, sorry. This actually, I would have preferred he hit the Toxic, and I'll kind of go more into that later. So this... You always want that Toxic damage, but this ends up not working out for me. So it is what it is. I don't have a lot of sympathy for the Toxic Miss. So I anticipate him to want to switch out because I don't think he wants to sack his Rotom. So I go Persian on his Bronzong. He goes Mandibuzz. He shows Mandibuzz as a switch. I was trying to prevent Rock, so I taunt immediately, and I'm like, great. If he tries to, you know, go for momentum, I can get a Toxic off. As he goes for knockoff, this is a fantastic situation for Persian. So at this point, Mandibuzz is at 70, and I'm kind of like keeping track of like things in my head. I'm like, okay, so Mandibuzz can't switch into close combat from Buzzwole. It can't, maybe not switch into 2 Water Pulses from Blastoise. So I'm trying to like whittle things down so that they can't come back in against my threats, because he can't roost here. He's taunted. So I make a bit of another read. I don't think he's going to want to U-turn and then take, you know, whatever attack I have. Maybe a knockoff. He probably wants to keep his item, and then, you know, stuff like that. So I anticipate him to switch. He goes Roserade, so I just go for a Parting Shot. And just like that, my Zapdos is back in. So at this point, he showed kind of, well, Rotom, he had Rotom in, and then he went Bronzong. I'm anticipating him to want to go Bronzong. I don't think he goes Rotom, because Rotom will die to any 2 hits. Intellion makes no sense. Pult makes no sense. Mandibuzz makes no sense. So I decide to go for Heat Wave, because it hits Roserade. Doesn't necessarily kill. It will 2-shot. He could be Sash, he could be a bunch of different things, but it also hits Bronzong. And he does go Bronzong, and we hit the Heat Wave, and it 2-shots. It does 62. So this Zapdos, again, like I said, is just putting in an insane amount of work early game, because I'm getting the predictions right. He goes for a Protect to get some leftovers back. I have no reason, you know, not to stay in. And I forget if I switch here or not. I think I just stay in. Yeah, so he switches. He goes into Pult. So he obviously knows some specs. He takes a Heat Wave. And here, you know, it's Pult. Like I said, Persian's my initial switch, and he goes for Flamethrower, and that is specs. So this is a bit of a worst case scenario. So he goes for Flamethrower and takes me down to 39. So at this point, Persian doesn't have a lot of utility. It already Toxic Mandibuzz, so that thing is low. Bronzong is low, and a lot of my Pokemon really give Bronzong a hard time, so it's not like Bronzong is healing up anytime soon. Inteleon outspeeds me, Pult outspeeds me. I can't take 2 Shadow Balls, so I can't really do much to Roserade because all I have is knockoff. So Persian's utility is kind of gone. So he actually switches out. He goes into Roserade. I think he anticipated... I don't know what he anticipated. I don't know why he didn't just go for another Flamethrower. Maybe... Oh, actually, I think he anticipated Blastoise. That actually makes a lot of sense because Blastoise would be really my only switch into Flamethrower. So he goes Roserade, predicting me to try to, you know, salvage Persian. But like I said, Persian's not doing a whole lot. So I just go for Parting Shot, and that play works out really, really well for me because I'm able to bring back in Zapdos. And at this point, did I click Heat Wave again? No, I Volt Switch because, again, I didn't know what he would go for here. He could go Rotom on a Hurricane. He could go Bronzong predicting a flying move. He could just sack Roserade. Volt Switch would have broken its Sash. I didn't know what item he was. So I just go for Volt Switch, try to conserve momentum, and I bring in Buzzwole because at this point, he dies to a close combat. So it's not like he can like really scout her. It's like a 50-50 what he goes for. I didn't want to go Gengar because he could sack this and then bring in Pult, which is really bad. So I just decide to go for Darkest Lariat as my safest play. He goes Roserade, probably predicting the fighting move. Good trip. I think he ended up being like max HP. He had some bulk, and he shows Black Sludge. So no Sash, no Scarf, which is absolutely huge information. I go Zapdos, and he Sleep Powder. So I went Zapdos because we ate any one hit. He wasn't an offensive move. He showed Black Sludge. We lived any hit from Roserade, and again, we outspeed. We put on that offensive pressure for him to pick a sack. And he hit Sleep Powder, which, like I said earlier, if he would have hit that turn 1 Toxic, we would have been in a much better spot than a sleeping Zapdos. But Zapdos is asleep, so he gets a little bit of health back. He ends up going into Pult as I burn my first turn, and I think that's fine. If I get a first turn Wake and he stays in, I kill Pult, which is huge. Opens up Gengar. Unfortunately, I don't, so Zapdos takes a lot of chip. We don't have Roost. I'm like, all right, here's where I officially sack Persian. So this gave me a sack, which is really good. So we go down to 2 Shadow Balls, which is, totally fine. We can still play around the Zapdos Wake against stuff like Bronzong and Rotom, so that still has value. And I go into Blastoise. So I went into Blastoise. I want momentum here, and I don't see a universe where he stays in. He's seeing how much Shadow Ball's doing to my team, and he just killed my only Ghost Resist. So there's no universe where he lets Pult go down to an attack from Blastoise. So a bit of a gutsy call, but it makes sense. I just Mega Evolve and go for the flip turn. I'm not going to risk sacking momentum again. Like I said, if I would have just attacked the Inteleon, he could U-turn on my switch. I don't want that. So I go into Registeel, probably the least valuable. He hits a Hydro Pump, does not do a lot. So I'm like, great, this is fine. Not specs. Get off a nice body press. I'm fine with this. Registeel is probably meant for this mon the most out of his team because he's, you know, specs. He has Flamethrower, like I said in preview. He misses one. We get off a body press. He lives. We get some nice HP. I'm like, this is great. We live anyone hit. And he's Metronome. So that does 65 because he keeps clicking it, which is a very cool set. So we end up living with Registeel, but he, again, goes into Dragapult and just picks us off, so that's fine. So we're down 4-5 in terms of Mons, but we have momentum, and we have a couple of his Mons really, really low. So I go into Blastoise again. We have anyone hit. There's no shot that he, you know, stays in there, but that time I just go for Dark Pulse because I want Chip on Roserade or a kill, and we end up killing the Bronzong. So it's back to even. He goes into Roserade. Again, oh, actually he doubles there because I think he anticipated Zapdos. Oh yeah, that was a fun play. So this turn I took a while on because there are some mind games here. I didn't think he would go for a grass move because Zapdos is right there. And if I wake up, which is probably, I think, what I have more of a probability to do, that's not showing up on the screen, but I burned 2 turns of sleep. If he allows Zapdos in, he has to sack him on to Hurricane. And he knows that. And I've switched Zapdos in on this before I should. I'm not afraid to play recklessly with that. So, and my other 2 switch-ins, like, is even if I switch out to Buzzwole or Gengar, Grass doesn't hit any of those. So I really don't think that he goes for a Grass move here. He can't sleep anything. So if anything, he just goes for a Poison move and tries to kill me, which at that point I'm fine with, because if I flip turn into potentially Gengar or Zapdos and try to get the Wake, I get it in for free, and I think that puts me in a lot better spot. And I'm willing to sacrifice Blastoise. At this point, I was willing to put that on the line, and it works out. He tries to go Dragapult to predict me to switch into Zapdos, and I get the flip turn off and get momentum, which is absolutely huge. And I go Buzzwole here. So I could have gone Gengar and bluffed Scarf. I think that would have been very foolish. Zapdos didn't make sense, so Buzzwole is my only play. And he obviously, I think, anticipates that I'm Scarf. I have to go for the Lariat. It's my best play. Does nothing to Mandibuzz, but he's taking Toxic, which is really nice. I'm assuming he's Boots, because he's not leftover. So I go back into Blastoise. I'm not risking him knocking off my Scarf, as he reveals Air Slash. So no Roost. He's down to 47. So he switches out here. His Mandibuzz is at 47. He dies to a Stone Edge. I think he dies to 2 close combats. He doesn't die to a Lariat, though. So I have to keep Mandibuzz low if I'm going to win this game with Buzzwole, because he's preserving Pult really well. I don't think Gengar is going to be my win con, and Zapdos is asleep. So at this point in the game, I'm really thinking about, okay, how do I kill Pult? How do I win this game? So I go for the flip, or no, I Rapid Spun, because I anticipated this, and I wanted that little bit of extra chip on Roserade to negate some of that Black Sludge, so that I would outspeed and go for the flip turn. So that was, you know, it seems like a flex, but it really didn't net that much for me. So here I do go Zapdos, pretty predictably. There's the Grass move, because he saw me do it last time. I'm kind of playing a little bit of 3D chess here. I'm like, great, I can get a kill. And he goes Pult, and I stay asleep, which 3-turn sleep here really, really stinks, because this is twice he's gone Pult on Zapdos now. Any one of those turns, if I hit that Hurricane, you know, if I hit a Hurricane, Pult dies. So he played to the 3-turn sleep, and he got it out of him, but that's really unfortunate. At this point, Zapdos isn't worth anything, so I just sack it, because this gives me Buzzwole back. And oh no, I go Blastoise, because he shows Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball doesn't kill me. Draco potentially would, but he's not. He's locked into Shadow Ball, and he knows that. So he puts Dragapult as win con. I predict this, and I just go for Dark Pulse and pick off the Rotom. So Rotom's gone. It's back to even, but he gets momentum into Roserade. And he goes for Sleep Powder, which I thought this was an incredibly ballsy play. It definitely did catch if I wanted a hard switch, but at this point, I can't. Buzzwole's my win con, and Gengar, if I get it in on Mandibuzz or Roserade, from what they're at, can potentially just pick them off if he's not extra sensory, which Giga Drain, I'm assuming Sludge Bomb, it could be his last move, but that really doesn't make a lot of sense. I think a Spike would make more sense. So I'm still playing to try to get Gengar in on this thing as well. So again, Blastoise is just kind of the sack, like I said. So I burn a turn of sleep. That's fine. He goes into Mandibuzz as I go into Gengar. And again, because Mandibuzz is so low, and he makes a very good play, I would say, into Dragapult on the Thunderbolt. However, if I was Dazzling Gleam, this game was over. Although Roserade is kind of a switch-in, so, you know, maybe that's not the best play. But if I was Dazzling Gleam, I had this game right here. But he eats the Thunderbolt. I show him Life Orb, so I am not Scarf. I switch back into Blastoise because it still has value. And I'd rather sack that than Gengar to get Buzzwole in. And we die to 2 Shadow Balls, so Dragapult, again, is just picking us apart. However, we have Buzzwole in now. And I'm looking at my calcs, and I'm like, okay. Roserade, I don't think at this point, I'm trying to remember back to what I was thinking. Pult dies to a Stone Edge. Mandibuzz dies to a Stone Edge. I think Roserade died to a Stone Edge at +1. Mandibuzz did not die to 2 Darkest Lariat, so I really can't go for Lariat here. I can't obviously go for Close Combat. Poison Jab doesn't make sense, so I just... My luck with accuracy moves is not good, but I have to go for Stone Edge. Like, I absolutely have to. So he goes into Roserade, which I think was his best play, and I miss a Stone Edge. So I'm like, yep, there it is. That's game. So I miss a Stone Edge, so I'm like, all right, how do I conserve this? I can't let Buzzwole go to sleep. My sack is Gengar every time. So I go to Gengar, because I have to preserve it somehow. He hits a 3rd Sleep Powder. So I'm like, all right, he's back at 79. This is not looking good. And I decide to make a very ballsy play, and I double into Buzzwole. Now, I think I'm breaking this turn down. I'm going to go back. So, again, Buzzwole lives anyone hit, and I don't need health on Buzzwole at this point to win this game. At this point, it's looking like I have to hit Stone Edges. So, I would rather keep Gengar as a sack to if I need to, like, if I lose a 50-50 and I, like, go for Darkest Lariat as he goes Mandibuzz, then I have Gengar as a sack to reset that and try again for a Stone Edge endgame. And I live anyone hit. He can't put me to sleep. I think I was, like, calcing Extra Sensory or something, but at this point I didn't think he had it. And that was, yeah. If he had Extra Sensory, then, you know, good on him. But he ends up going to Mandibuzz to try to Roost, and I go to Buzzwole. So at this point, I'm like, all right, it's do or die. I think Roserade dies at +1, so I just got to go for it. We hit 1. You know, Mandibuzz goes down. So we get that little Beast Boost. It's the nickname. He goes Pult. If I miss, we lose because Specs Flamethrower kills me. We hit Pult. And Gengar's asleep, so if Leslie has Extra Sensory, we can afford a miss here. But Buzzwole don't miss, and we take the game. And I felt this was probably one of the games I'm most proud of because of how I played. From the Zapdos games early to a couple of the Blastoise predictions and plays. And despite a 3-turn sleep on Zapdos, him going 3 for 3 on Sleep Powder, we're able to neck it out. So Buzzwole hitting 3 Stone Edges in a row to win the game. Probably the clutchest Pokemon that I have had, and gets us to the next round of the playoffs. So a very fun game, very good games to Sammy. I think he played it incredibly well. He was playing very well with Pult, which was definitely the greatest weakness on my team. And I'm really happy with how I played. I was able to utilize the defensive pieces really well, keep pressure up with Zapdos early so that a lot of stuff like Rotom and Bronzong weren't able to take on stuff like Buzzwole and Gengar later in the game. So that early game went incredibly well, but we move on. So I will post the video for that game soon. And like I said, everything for Metafy, all that stuff is in the description. Videos will be fairly sparse just because grad school and all that. But we'll see you guys in the next video, and thank you so much for watching. Peace.